This is an open meeting under section 19.81 to 19.98 of the Wisconsin State Statutes. You have last month's meeting minutes in front of you. Any need for corrections? Anyone? Nope. Then I'd look for a motion to approve. Motion by Joel,
Second.
second by Dan. All in favor of approval of those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and then monthly staff reports.
Yes, so for December is what you have in your packet. Slight uptick overall from a year ago, which keep in mind, it was a mild month for the most of December. So that's good that we were actually ahead from the previous year. What we were down in was check-ins, and again, related to the weather, also related to memberships being down. Silver Sneakers, on the other hand, was up by 250 check-ins from the previous year. And then as far as the golf simulator, we had 30 reservations totaling 45 hours. So that's how that reads on your form there. If you count the couple of days we weren't open for holidays, that's at least a little over one reservation a day. So that was good. Our swim lessons were down from last December. I'm not sure what the reasoning for that was. I didn't talk to Zach about that. But our open swim and our toddler swims were both up. And then as far as memberships sold, about 15 less than from a year ago.
Any questions on the reports, guys? Thank you, Randy.
Yep.
Any communication or correspondence come in?
None.
No appearances or public comments, no old business, new business administration. First item is an executive summary on soccer and football field rentals.
So yes, we've had some interest from a soccer academy about renting our fields. While our department has fees for baseball diamonds and green spaces, et cetera, we did not have any formal fee structure for soccer and or football field rentals. Obviously, we have various soccer fields. Football, we do have our flag football fields that can be utilized as well. Staff researched what other communities are offering and came to the conclusion that a fair amount would be a $60 per field per day for a city resident rental fee, and then a $75 fee for a non-resident to be able to rent a soccer field. This fee would not apply to the local youth groups that currently use our fields, namely United and Hartford Soccer Clubs. And then also note, as we had this academy step forward, we would make sure that their dates and times would not interfere with those of the current clubs that are utilizing the fields.
Any questions or comments on it? Joel?
Yeah, so when I talk about these fields, we're talking like mostly the ones up in Independence Park, right?
Correct.
For the most part.
Yep.
And on those fields, luckily enough, for the most part, I know the clubs themselves keep the lines marked and stuff. The club puts away and takes out the nets and stuff. And I also know that, and not that I haven't done much with the soccer club at all, but I also know that they're up there quite often just for practices. It's really not scheduled. They don't really check out the fields. So, and I'm not opposed to this. I think it's a great idea. It's just a matter of coordinating and obviously, like you say, working. We're gonna have to probably work pretty tight with them when it comes down to scheduling the fields and all. I do know, like the United, or actually, yeah, it's United has the Kick the Grass tournament usually in August that brings in a lot of people and stuff. And if we're looking at doing something else like that, it's just going to be, I feel, a lot of coordination with that group, just so that we're not stepping on any toes, because we are grateful that they are maintaining a lot of the fields themselves. So I just want to keep that in mind with this proposal.
Yep. This gentleman that approached us, namely looking for June through August, so between seasons.
Yeah.
That isn't to say that our local teams aren't using the fields. So like you said, communication, I started with that, and Sarah has since taken it over for me. Communicating with the clubs, making sure that we aren't stepping on toes, making sure they're getting their space that they want, and also let them know, hey, we have a group that'll be utilizing this. Also, the gentleman had asked for, I believe it was a U12 size field. He was just looking for one field. The other thing I want to do with him, I've been talking with Ron Heschley, we have 2, possibly 3 fields that would be size appropriate. We'd want to rotate him, just
Right.
because we
Yep.
utilize summer as we let the grass
Regrow.
recover.
Yeah.
Regrowth season, let the fields rest a little bit. So we don't want a field that's overused and in poor shape come play in fall, for any teams. So I'll be working with that gentleman on that as
In
well.
that time frame, I know for a fact, I mean, that's usually pretty light when it comes, it's in between the spring and fall season, people like the summer. I think the only thing that really, and I don't think it's a club related to have someone that comes out and does like a small academy, a couple days a week, or a couple, yeah, I think it's like 3 or 4 days, 1 week. Power Behind the Bird, they do that, that academy, but that could, and they usually just use like the Eli Field, field number 8, but.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a great idea, and, it sits there as long as we, like you say, keep the rotation and the coordination with the other clubs. We don't want to, because we don't want to take over that maintenance, do we, Brian?
We would rather not.
Yeah,
So we want to be respectful to our attendance, right?
I also think our club should have first right.
Yep, 100%. We're working around their schedule.
Yeah. That would be my only concern is that they understand this is, Ramos Soccer Academy understands our club has first right. So if they book it, it's booked.
Yep, and that'll go through us, that communication with the academy, and then obviously both clubs.
But this is open to anybody. Ramos is when it came forward, but it's open for anybody then, right? I mean, if someone else comes in, they want to use it, is it the same thing?
Sure.
We're gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're approving this for, Ramos may be the first one to approach this, so we're setting this up, but it could be.
So when the Joe Kohler Academy starts
There
in
you go.
August, you get the
You got
same fees.
I got my grandson that's gonna start, I guarantee you. So, and I think, like I said, looking at the rates that you have, I think is fair. Knowing what we charge for what we get paid, we have to pay for sometimes indoor fields and stuff like that. This looks like a steal to me, to be honest with you. So I think it's great. It's priced at least at an entry point for people to maybe get the word going, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and we did check with various communities.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm familiar with Watertown. I believe we had charged $100 there. And then we've found things in between. So we're in a middle point, kind of where we would expect and want to be.
Yep, I think it's great.
Any other questions or comments on it? We have an executive summary in front of us. Anybody care to motion here?
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Joe to approve staff's recommendation, and second by John. Any other discussion? Okay, I do have one thing I just wanted to ask after we got this motion second. As Joe said, this does seem like somewhat of a steal. And so, in my opinion, there's more potential for damage to a soccer field than there is for damage to a baseball field over the course of a day, a tournament over a day's time or something like that. And so, why do we have the disparity between the field rentals?
Just because there's more prep that would go into a baseball field than, say, soccer. You got the dragging, sometimes it's the diamond dry if it's wet conditions, the raking. With a soccer field, it's mowing and painting.
And if the user is doing the dragging, taking that work out of the equation.
Still, there's more to a baseball diamond than there is a soccer field, and keep in mind, I'm a soccer guy, so I'm not belittling soccer.
We won't hold that against you, Randy.
And I'm a baseball guy, and that's why I'm asking. the
Okay.
And so, I see the disparity there and wonder, I mean, if you have rain, if you have a significant amount of rain and people continue to play that soccer tournament, your field is gonna be decimated for the rest of the year.
Correct.
They aren't gonna play a baseball game if it's pouring rain all day long.
Yeah,
So your field's not gonna be decimated.
I don't disagree with your maintenance viewpoint on this. We were looking at it as, hey, this isn't something that's been asked or done with. There's a lot more request for baseball, so supply and demand, even though, I mean, arguably we have more soccer fields than we do baseball diamonds, but the request is, demand is for baseball.
Understood. I cannot argue with supply and demand.
And with anything, you know, if we see that we're getting overwhelmed with requests, you know, we come back and say, hey, we need to adjust something, as we do with anything. So we thought it was a good starting point.
Okay. Again, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or discussion on it? All in favor of approval of staff's recommendation, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we have a review of the 2024 CIPs.
So yes, in your packet, you'll find a list of, starting with carry forward projects from previous years that remain unfinished, namely the West Side dugouts along with Homestead Park, which will appear in future years as well. And then, so also on your list is new projects and purchases for the 2024 fiscal year. We are well underway with these projects with accepted quotes for our gym floor and the VMAC heater replacements. Due to time restraints, so we actually went right to council with both of those as soon as the budget was approved. We are actively researching Signacast wall painters, as well as the sign replacement. That's one project. And then also the stairway replacement for the slide, where engineering is helping us out with that. Monday was the deadline for our corp plans, so I have those in hand, and we'll be reviewing those and putting our decisions and executive summary in front of this body next month. The toolcat you see listed there has actually already been purchased and received. That was something that we started out working on almost a year ago, just with production times. We wanted to ensure that we got that as soon as possible. It was actually, I want to say, finished late last year, October, November sometime. And we were able to get one of those at the turn of the year. As soon as the budget was approved, we let the manufacturer know. So we were able to get that right away. And then engineering is also heading up our Indy parking lot pavement, and that is expected to take place sometime this summer. So that'll be between soccer seasons, and shouldn't affect anything major in the park. And probably after the 4th of July. Not probably after the 4th of July, that work will take place, as we don't want to have a mess out there for the fireworks show. So, any questions on that list or anything we're doing?
Just explain the budget amount for Homestead versus the carry forward balance.
Sure, so the original budgeted amount is what I put for all items. So it was originally 100,000, and then with the playground purchase and installation, it narrowed it down to, I believe it's about 48. I don't have it in front of me, just give me a second. So yes, so the carry forward request was 48,900 because of the purchase and installation of the playground.
Do we still have that one? I thought we had like one of those park pavilion. Do we still have that one, or did we use it someplace?
We have an open shelter that's being stored at Independence Park.
Right.
Staff has had discussions on it in passing. Really need to look at it hard to see how much deterioration has happened with it. I know it's been sitting there for a number of years. I think the original plan was for that to be installed at Independence Park between the ball diamonds to act as shelter there. I would need to talk with the baseball users, see if that's something they would still want. To me, I think having that open space has been beneficial, and then when tournaments come in, they've typically have rented tents from equipment rentals. But we have had discussions as a staff as to, is it still worthwhile? Is it still worth? What kind of shape is it in? And then other areas that we could possibly utilize
I was
that.
just looking at that for the Homestead Park, you know,
Yep.
that shelter there.
So
Just a question.
I do have an idea for Homestead, a resource that I had in Watertown that I want to try to utilize that might be able to provide some sort of shelter for a lot cheaper.
Sure, okay. I mean, that's probably a little bit too, kind of large for that area too, for that park there maybe, but.
I don't recall
Yeah.
the size of it. Brian, do you remember?
I believe it's 35 by 20,
Okay.
and it's in really rough condition. I looked at it after the thaw here about 2 weeks ago, and the only thing that's really holding it up is some 2x12s that we screwed to it about 6-7 years ago to keep the list out of it. And a lot of the wood is rotten and split away. And if you
Yeah,
put a
so
roof on and all the water underneath, water damage that's happened, by the time you're done replacing 80% of it, you've wasted all that time and labor and still have these rotted out pieces in 3 to 5 years that you're gonna have to address. So I think it's served its purpose well. You know, I'll talk to Randy and come up with a really good conclusion for it, but I really truly feel that we could scrap some of the lumber that's on it and reuse it, and the rest is,
Well, and in that case
consumed.
too, it's just for safety, I know sitting out there in the middle of nowhere,
yeah.
you don't know who's over there playing around it and stuff, so it might just be a safety hazard as
Yeah.
well, so. I just remember having one, I just remember what we did with it, or if it's still there, so.
It's on our radar, and we've discussed it every couple weeks here, especially during winter when we have a little more downtime
Right.
to plan as a
Sure.
department.
Good.
Randy, the cost of the outdoor plan, did that go up significantly? Or have those gone up significantly?
So I budgeted for 20,000 for that. And that's based on a number. Obviously, I did some research. The plans that I have in hand, and I want to say we have at least 3. There might be a 4th one, but we're right around that number. I know there's one that came in lower than our budgeted number. One came in just above, that offers a couple of, I guess, new options for us going through the process. And then another one had, was quite a bit higher, but it had different options you could choose from that would bring it down. So, to answer your question,
I didn't remember these costs being that
Yeah.
high, these plans being
so
that high.
actually, last time we did it, Mike Herman had budgeted 25,000. So I actually budgeted less. And truthfully, I wish I would have stayed status quo and budgeted 25, but, we'll see what this body thinks of, the options we have in front of us next month.
Okay. Anything else, guys? All right, we'll move on to,
So we'll table the rec center tour.
and then we'll move on to rec programs and activities. First up is junior high Stuck at the Movies.
So on February 19th, Monday, there is no school, and we are holding our junior high Stuck at the Movies at Schubert's Theater. It is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., so kids get to have the chance of seeing 2 movies. We have not gotten those movies yet. I have been in contact with them, but I haven't gotten a list yet. Hopefully, it's just as good of a turnout as last year. We had a pretty good turnout last year, so we're hoping for the same this year.
Right, and then the family puzzle contest.
So February 16th, we have our annual family puzzle contest. They get to compete against each other in time. Top couple of teams get prizes, such as pool passes to VMAC or Signacast. Some snacks and water provided, things like that. We have 3 registered teams. We can take up to 12. And every year, the puzzles have been donated by James at National Park Puzzles, so extra thank you for him.
And the Princess Camp,
Princess Camp is coming up on Saturday, February 17th. It's one of our more popular camps. We hold it throughout the year a couple times. We have a full class, so there are 12 signed up, and then we actually have a couple on the wait list. Our new art and movement instructor, Ria, will be teaching the class.
all right, we'll move on to adult and youth sports and youth ball registration report.
Youth Ball just opened last week on February 1st. We have distributed flyers to all of the elementary schools and the middle school. Try to get some in there, as well as Sycamore Tree and Happy Hollow. We have registration open until March 4th. At this current time, out of all of them, we have 72 registrations total. So for it being 1 week, I feel like that's pretty, we're getting there. So hopefully we can get teams for all of our programs.
And youth volleyball,
Our co-ed volleyball starts February 19th, runs for 5 weeks. Right now, we have 24 kids signed up, so we can take up to 30. A few more left, but our class is run by the Hartford Volleyball Club, so the kids get a really good chance to learn from the varsity volleyball team and kind of what they do there.
nice. Saturday sports,
So our next round starts at the end of February on the 24th. We have youth basketball, which is filled at 20 with a wait list. Our Pee Wee basketball, only a few spots left with 16 signed up, and our Pee Wee soccer has 9 signed up. So we're on good track there too.
okay, we'll move on to aquatics, and that's Aquatic Center.
Yeah, so we are currently accepting applications for positions at the pool. We've already gotten quite a few in for admissions and concessions, as well as lifeguards. There's a class at the high school right now that Angie Hall's running. There's 25 kids in it, so there's a lot of kids interested in lifeguarding in the area. Not all of them will apply. Some of them just want the credits and to learn, but there are some who have expressed interest. Right now, out of the 88 staff from last year, 5 have said they are not coming back. So pretty good retention there, much higher than last year, which was extremely high. So that's definitely a positive, but hopefully we get some good applicants to fill those spots that we now have open.
And Signacast, let's talk about swim lessons in section 1.
Yeah, so once this week's lessons are completed, we're at the halfway point for winter session 1. Classes are going pretty good, no major issues. Everyone's progressing pretty well. We've had a couple days where we've had an instructor show up somewhat late, and they all worked together and figured out a plan to make sure the kids still got a good lesson in, and we're safe too. So shout out to the instructors on that. They did a great job at working the problem and still making sure we gave out a good product.
And tell us about the Sweetheart Special.
Yeah, so the day before Valentine's Day, Tuesday the 13th, during our open swim from 3:30 to 5:15, we're having a buy one admission, get one free as a Sweetheart Special. So bring in your significant other or your family, and they can get that deal. Last year we had a pretty good attendance for it, so hopefully we get the same this year.
And we have a family game night.
Yep, Friday, February 23rd. Our normal open swim, 6:30 to 8:30. We're having a family game night. Basically, with family game night, we have our head guard organizing 3 to 4 games where families can sign up in groups of 4. They compete in those games, gain points based on competition with other families, and then we give out prizes. So most common prizes are candy for the kids, as well as passes to both the indoor and outdoor pool. So last year, same as the Sweetheart Special, very good attendance for it, very good participation, so hopefully we get the same this year.
All right, we'll move on to parks and park project report.
Yeah, so beginning of January, we were able to finish up work at Candy Cane Park, addition of wood chips, and finished the install there. Of course, the snow events the week of January 19th, helped out quite a bit with DPW. Obviously, our own sidewalk and bridge cleanup. We were short a snow blower, the aforementioned, previously mentioned, Toolcat that we purchased, was supposed to come with a new snow blower. We knew that was back ordered, so that meant we were down a piece of equipment, so that just meant it took us a little longer, to go through that process. Guys were working some long hours, that weekend. Daryl does a good job of divvying them up, making sure they're capped, somewhere between 12 and 16 hours. He doesn't let them work longer than that before they're sent home to take a break. And then we also took time during January. Brian and I worked on evaluations for the parks crew as well as maintenance. Sat down and went over those evaluations with them, gave them an opportunity. We talk every morning, we talk in passing, but we don't often sit them down and talk one-on-one. Let them know what we saw of their performance, good and bad suggestions, and then let them comment on the department and the work that we do to help make the process better as well. So we did not do that last year, always wanted to, never got around to it. So even this year, I would have preferred to do it in December when I do the rest of the management's evals. But time just wouldn't allow it, so we got that taken care of in January as well.
Any questions, guys, on the reports? Update on the ice rink, or lack thereof.
Lack thereof. Again, mild weather. I think we had one weekend, the following weekend after the snowstorm, which was ill-timed because we didn't have time to get out to the rink we have partially set up at Vets. And of course, we've been talking about utilizing the mill pond. Just haven't had long stretches of good enough weather. And typically, our peak season for ice skating would be January through February. And here we are, the second week of February, and the extended forecast is not favorable for ice skating. So it's interesting. Zach, Melanie, and myself, we were at our state conference last week, and we get to trade ideas and look around to see what others are doing. And I believe it was Appleton, and I kind of shared that with Brian and the staff. Appleton takes basically an open shelter, and they put their rink underneath that, which obviously it doesn't help with temperatures, but sun's also a big factor in how good our ice rinks are. Even on a 10-degree day, if it's a bright sun, that'll have ill effects on the ice with melting, especially if, say, something gets underneath the ice like a leaf or something that would be darker, that'll affect melting. So trying to think outside the box, other things we could do. I mean, we even saw, and you might be familiar with this, there was a vendor there that had, for lack of better terms, plastic sheets that he lays down for skating purposes. I was telling Sarah about it, and he says, yeah, one side wears out, you just flip it over. And I go, so does it make ice shavings or little plastic schnibbles? He goes, oh yeah, all over the place, he said. So he didn't deny it, but
And you can't glide on it either.
Yeah.
It's it's real good for hockey players and
Okay.
power skating, but for like recreational skaters,
It's not a good surface.
no, because you have to keep your feet moving at all times.
Oh, because otherwise, it's like being in water, if you stop moving, you stop.
Yeah, it's not conducive to like
Recreational. play.
recreational hockey, especially if your blades are dull, which I'm sure most people don't even sharpen their blades.
Okay.
Yeah. Power skater is great. Regular people, no.
Gotcha.
And we don't have a shelter that big that would even,
The best we would have is Woodlawn. And then even that has pillars within the inside, and then, would have to check out the pitch of the floor. Yeah, it's gonna have a little bit of a pitch, and you can have one, but not, I mean, to a certain extent, then it becomes a hindrance, so.
right?
Something to look at, and it's something to consider maybe as we go through the court process. If that's something that the city wants, this body wants, that's, now's the time. Explore it and talk about it.
Brings us to commission requests. Anything on your mind tonight? Anything you'd like to see improved, changed? All right, there being none, I'd look for motion to adjourn.
Do we adjourn though, because we're going to the rec center?
Yeah. Good
Okay.
point. We will not adjourn. We will
It's the correct term.
recess,
And then meet again.
recess and take it up again at the rec center. Thank you, Randy.
Look
Yep,
at Randy
bet.
keeping the feds off us.